point of consciousness from which
Good morning. Good
objectively
morning.
aware of your surroundings.
It's 3 o'clock a.m. Running a little bit behind, but that's okay. And I'm going to tell you why it's okay. And why I've learned to accept the fact that I'm not always going to be the first one at the gym. I've accepted the fact that I'm not always going to be the first one coming in on my runs. I'm not going to be the first one. I used to think being first was the most important thing. When you start putting first above and beyond any and everything else, you start realizing that you actually forgot one fundamental truth that's more important than first, and that's showing up. So I'm not running late, I'm just showing up at a different time. I'm going to tell you 2 key things that have been able to help me lately, and that I believe are going to be cornerstones of not only how I build my business, but how I build my relationship and my faith. And one of the things is being very slow to speak. Being very slow to speak. I remember my mentor telling me something, and then I heard it from maybe another influential individual. I remember him saying he would never make a financial decision without consulting with at least 3 different people. And he would never make a decision on the spur of the moment. He would always give himself 24, 48 hours to actually come up with an idea. Now, this is wisdom from somebody who's built himself from a kid in Philly, and has moved his way up through the corporate ladder to be an entrepreneur and a corporate CEO. And when he says something, it's got to carry some weight with it, because, well, you don't get to that position in life by just being any type of slouch. But when somebody speaks to you and they may be at a different level or at a different point in life, it's not always going to make sense. So sometimes what they say yesterday is still trying to catch up with you today. And I noticed when a situation that may create some type of emotional reaction comes up, and you have 2 emotional people meeting in the center to discuss that, it's not going to go good. I don't care if you're both on the same side, let alone on opposing corners of the topic that you need to discuss. It's not going to go well. Somebody has to remove themselves from this situation that is clearly emotional and that is clearly not going to be judged based on its merits, but based on how your feelings. And if you know something about feelings, following your feelings will sometimes have you alone. Following your feelings will sometimes have you stuck. Sometimes you got to step back from your feelings, because your feelings are just that. They're just feelings. It's like, this is how I feel right now. Right? You ever had somebody do something to you and you reacted right then and there, and then later on you was like, maybe I handled that wrong? Well, same situation. So when you give yourself the opportunity to pull back, not address it, what you're doing is you're allowing that first initial reaction to just kind of calm down and be able to reapproach the situation from a different perspective, one that might resolve it. And that's been a key thing for me, is to step back from what could otherwise be an emotional reaction and just be cool. The second thing that I've learned, and that's been very fundamental for me, is it's emotions. Be very careful about dealing with somebody who is always in their feelings. Somebody always got a hairpin trigger feeling button that when something goes left, something goes right, they're automatically in their feelings, feeling a certain kind of way. Be wary of that individual. Be wary of that type of situation. Don't get sucked into that. Don't get sucked into that. Don't get lured into having that type of conversation. See, what I've noticed that is when I'm talking to somebody and their immediate, if you have two immediate reactions. One, if your reaction, and we're talking about something that deserves some serious consideration, if your immediate reaction is to get emotional, to get irrational, and to try to address the situation right then and there, that's one kind of person. The other kind of person is the one that says, I get it. Can you tell me again? All right, let me process that and I'll get back to it. I haven't ran across too many people who said, let me just process it. Now, I've ran across people who say, well, whatever you think is right, that's what we'll do. Meaning they're willing to take my lead. They're willing to take my lead. But the person who says, you know what, let me process that, and then let me get back to you and make sure that it's the right plan. Let me think about it. Let me process it. See, I have a rule of thumb that if I make you alert to some information and you immediately become irrational, then at that moment, I know that I must control the situation or it will get out of control. Because not everything has to be dealt with feelings. Matter of fact, most things don't need to be dealt with feelings. Death doesn't even need to be dealt with in feelings. It can be dealt with in love. It can be dealt with in faith. It can be dealt with in understanding. But feelings are too inconsistent. Feelings are too sloppy. There's no rhyme or reason behind the feeling. So that's all I wanted to lay you down with. It's two things that I actually rely on and lean on to help me through, that have been fundamental in building. And everybody's got to have those fundamental building blocks. If you don't, you got problems, because there's something you got to be able to fall back on. There's got to be some principles. There's got to be some values. There's got to be some morals, some ethics that you fall back on, that when a situation occurs, you can say, okay, well, this is how I deal with it. And this is my go-to for dealing with it. And give yourself some space. I don't deal with most situations right now. Unless it's the situation that comes up that it is what it is. Yesterday, I was seeing water on the ground in my garage. I don't know where. I noticed it was coming from my hot water heater. The home was built in 2014, so not quite sure what the deal is, but hey, it is what it is. I call up the company that I use. They're out there within 45 minutes. As they're going through it, as they're checking it out, call me back. Hey, it's going to be about $800 to get it fixed. Ask a couple questions. Find out what the situation looks like. It's not an emotional situation. It's a financial situation. You may want to tie your money to your finances, but at the end of the day, it's a business decision. It's a decision that has to be made. You have water all over the place. This ain't no time to be crying about things. Hey, how much is it going to be? Why is it going to be this much? Why you gotta do this? Why you gotta do that? Okay, good. Run it. Run it. Do it. Get it done. Get it done. So not everything you have to take your time to make a decision on. Some things need to be done. They need to make a decision needs to be made. It's inevitable. But it's not a need to get emotional. The old me would have gotten emotional. Oh my God, my money, my money, my money. And then I would have started looking for the cheapest person that could have thrown it together. So I'm going to bring some crackerjack dude in there to come start tinkering around at my house with my hot water heater. Nah, man, this is a reputable company. You do the job. That way I know it's done right. I have a peace of mind. I'm paying for a peace of mind. That's what I'm paying for. I'm paying for a peace of mind. So keep your fundamental strengths and your fundamental ground rules in front of you. That way when the situation approaches you, you always know what your go-to game plan is. You ain't never caught off balance fighting some emotional battle that need not be fought.